Hey guys, it's V. Welcome to Breakthrough with V, formerly known as Faith in the City. We have a new name, but the same message. We're here to bring you the real news, the good news, and the news that's going to set you free. Today, on my first episode of Breakthrough with V, we're going to be talking to Lisa Mackey. Lisa is a licensed marriage and family therapist, passionate about helping deeply feeling professionals navigate burnout, anxiety, depression, grief, loss, trauma, and most importantly, relationship issues. She has a warm and compassionate approach, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her business and how she's separate from the rest. So without further ado, please welcome Lisa to the show. So hi, Lisa.
Hi there, V.
Welcome to the show. Formerly Faith in the City. We're still working on the name, but we're thinking it's going to be Breakthrough with V. So I appreciate you being here today. It was so exciting to meet you a couple weeks ago and very unexpected, but it came at a time in my life personally where I knew that I needed kind of an addition to Beauty Through Breakthrough and seeing a need that wasn't being met. And so I'm really grateful to make the connection, but actually you reached out to me because on your mind was getting connected with some sort of podcast or getting out there to talk to, other people. I know for me specifically, I work with women that are recovering from trauma and abuse by teaching them holistic approaches to their beauty, wellness, and healing. And so working with that and working with other people that are seeing therapists already, but just maybe need some additional modalities to help them along their everyday life and in between sessions with their therapist. But more importantly, I found, just to kind of go right out the gate there, I found that a lot of my clients do come to me because they're not necessarily wanting to go that traditional route of talk therapy. Either their past experiences have not been, very warm and comforting and inviting, or, it was very clinical, or whatever the reason is. I feel that a lot of people are forced into doing that only because of obviously insurance purposes. But when I saw you and I read about you and learned a little bit more, and out of our conversations, it was just so nice to see somebody that was set apart in that arena that would still be able to offer people, really great, amazing therapy and individual psychotherapy, but also in the comfort of their own home. So I just wanted to introduce you, and your business is called Guest House, which was inspired by a poem. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about that and how that started from leaving that clinical environment and getting into more of a comfortable atmosphere where somebody would feel safe in the comfort of their own home.
Sure. Yeah. So, I will say that over the years, I've become more and more interested in poetry, and so just reading more and falling in love with a lot of poems. This has become one of my favorites. And when I was thinking of naming my business, I was like, what words encompass the feeling that I'm trying to bring, which is exactly what you're talking about, like this sense of comfort, of you can just like lay it all down,
Mhm.
come into the quote unquote guest house and just like be who you are, and we'll meet you where you're at. And this poem, I think, will highlight exactly how I conceptualize treatment and how I
Yeah.
conceptualize like a person changing their relationship with their feelings. So it's by Rumi, and it goes like this: This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Wow. And I have literal goosebumps up and down my body as you were reading that. I love that. And a lot of it is so rooted in faith, right? And honestly, realizing, because a lot of people that I talk with, because I do focus on a lot of spirituality as well. And, people are always like, I don't feel like I belong anywhere. And I know for my own personal breakthrough, it came from a place of darkness. And so it's kind of like that beauty from ashes. And I just am in the process of doing a lecture about the even biblical and spiritual perspectives of beauty, because beauty to me is only because of the healing that that I've experienced. And so when you say to just kind of receive that and treat everyone as a guest, right, in your house, it's like, it's so important to realize, because it could get murky about like, okay, how do we set up boundaries, but then also use our experiences and not be a doormat, right? Because I come from a faith background that was very legalistic in the sense of always doing, right? It was always like you had to do something. I wasn't good enough, so I had to almost try harder to get to this place. But I know that in your pamphlet and what you just mentioned is really just meeting people right where they're at. And quite honestly, that's where a lot of my pain and struggle came from, is because I was, suffering trauma and all of that from the very people that meant to walk in what God showed them and what Jesus taught, but they weren't really operating in that. And so a lot of my trauma came from that place. But when we look at the stories of Jesus and studying scripture, he met most people where they were. He went to the woman at the well when no one else wanted to be around her. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know where to worship. So she went to get water at the hottest day because nobody would be there. And that's kind of that place where the enemy leaves you to feel alone. And so, when we talk about therapy, and we can get in our own mind sometimes about like not seeking it out because of our misconceptions of what it might be, or our past experiences from receiving therapy for trauma. Could sometimes, I talked to somebody the other day who said, going to therapy actually triggered more trauma for me. And I felt worse leaving there than, when I went. So, I think setting, yourself apart in the way that you do to just meet people with that warmth and comfort and right where they're at. It doesn't have to be you have to change and do this and that in order to get to this place. But I know that you offer, a free consultation for anybody that's interested
Yeah.
to do so and kind of just see what that's all about. I actually offer that too. I think that's really important. But I think you in the way that you just listen, a lot of people feel like when they go to a therapy, they're very much talked to. Like, you have to do this, have to do that, have to do this. And when people come to me, that is part of coaching, right? So I
Mhm.
think even what separates you and I is the idea that you just have always, in any of the times that I've talked to you, I just really feel heard by you. And I
Mhm.
think when it comes to a place of where we're at in our life, given social media, all the things online, and doing our own self study, we truly deep down know what we're supposed to do. But what do you think is the reason that we, you know, take too much time to reach out and actually, find a therapist that's a good fit? Because I think that that is what is most important, is that you have a certain way about you where I don't believe that you need to like, talk to people about changing. I think that you allow people to have that realization themselves, and then you kind of guide them along the way.
Yeah. I I I have I've always had an image in my mind in doing therapy of, you know, a kind of like a weird it's a weird like a dark cave. And, I'm sitting in there and you're coming in and you're just like, I'm scared. I'm alone and I don't know what to do. And I'm kind of, you know, I'm standing beside you or maybe just a hair in front of you with this light. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, we're in this cave together. I maybe just know a little bit about how to get out of here, just a little
Yeah.
bit. And so it's not that I'm like, follow me, I know the way. It's like,
Yeah.
let's talk because I know some things that could help you, but
Mhm.
you are the expert of your life. And it may not feel like that when you enter the cave. You may not feel you a lot of people do come to therapy and they're like, please help me, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to work with airline pilots and they would just be like, all right, give me the checklist and let's get this
Mhm.
done.
Mhm.
And I would just say, I'm sorry, I have bad news. Like there's no checklist.
Right. Right.
with just two human beings meeting. I maybe know a little bit about how to get out of this cave, but truly, I'm going to take your word. And if you want to sit in this cave until you're ready, let's do it. Like
Mhm,
that is, it would be so arrogant of me to assume that I knew what was right for you.
mhm. But I think most people, like you talked about, like we are a guest house, right? And in scripture it talks about how we are the temple of God, like we are the walking embodiment. So a lot of my traumas and things like that has always been like I didn't feel accepted in a place, right? In a building. I felt like I did my own study. I wasn't going and getting spoon fed somewhere about someone else's experience, right? Like you said, I really tried to walk out this relationship with God myself, and I felt like I'm following what I believe He's telling me, and so like you said, I think sometimes a person knows what they're supposed to do. It's just all of the noise that's around us. So when you talk about like this cave, it's just so funny to me because in scripture it says that God speaks to us in a still small voice. And it's like how are we to hear that voice when there's so much chaos in our mind?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I think the idea of like this cave, like, no, it's a shelter, even though it seems dark and everything. I remember at the beginning of my healing journey, and it's never over, right? It's like layers. So I think that's the funny part about like, give me the checklist. It's like, honey, you're going to be checking stuff off forever because there's always going to be something where we can evolve from and transform and just go from glory to glory. The reality for me was when I started on this journey, there's a woman and she like kind of sought me down in the parking lot. It was really a weird experience, but it was cool. She said, I have a word for you from God. I feel like He just spoke this to me. Do you mind if I share it? She goes, I haven't felt like this in a long time. And I said, oh, absolutely. And this was really early on, right after a lot of my trauma and stuff. And she said, I see you walking through fire, right? But everything's going to burn off from you and you're going to be refined like gold and you are going to come out of it unscathed. And I was like, okay. Like I was like, all right, yeah, I'm ready. But not realizing like, okay, how long is this going to take? Because it's like, yeah, exactly. And so I remember just her like praying with me in that moment. And then, cause I was like, okay, but I don't have like anything right now. And it's a very scary moment that like healing to me is like I said, a journey. And sometimes the healing I feel could hurt emotionally more than the actual trauma that you've experienced. At least that's been my experience in a lot of ways. And for me, it was, a lot of it was delayed. Like once I got free and I got into a safe place and did all the things, it wasn't until years later where I felt like I was a little bit more on solid ground in my life that then it was like, okay, we're going to start getting and working on these things. And I started getting triggered in a way. But had I been unsettled when at first, so I think God works with you on those timings and all that. It's never in our time. But yeah, to go off of like what you said back to the whole cave thing, I think it's just really truly looking for somebody. There's in scripture it talks about how I believe it was Moses had to have his arms held up, like you're in the battlefield and it's like you have to keep fighting, like the war is not over, but like you literally can't do it by yourself anymore. And I think for me, I wish I would have reached out to my therapist way sooner because once I do it, it's like, okay, why was I waiting? It's like you experience so much freedom
Yeah.
when you can just be with somebody in a safe place and express yourself and get move through those murky waters of your thoughts in order to move forward. And so I think that prison in our own mind when we're by ourselves is like you can swirl around for weeks for me, and then once you finally do talk to somebody that you feel safe with, it was like, whew, that was so much easier than I thought.
Yeah, because pain wants to be witnessed.
Mhm,
It we think, and this is so human nature and nature for just across the board, we avoid pain. I mean, that's what
mhm,
kind of what we're designed to do.
right,
And yet in my work, in this poem is saying the opposite. It's saying
mhm,
not avoid it.
right.
Let's literally open the door and let it in. Now that's terrifying for most people,
Terrifying. Yeah.
especially when their coping mechanism is avoidance or dissociation or, rage or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, but that pain wants to be witnessed. It wants to be witnessed potentially by a therapist, but mostly by you, and
Mhm.
mostly by you having a compassionate, uh, centered presence to that pain. And again, that's really difficult because it's asking you to feel pain.
Mhm.
And who who's gonna raise their hand and say,
Right.
"Oh, yeah, that's me, I wanna do that." I like to equate it to either massage therapy or physical therapy, right?
Mhm.
If you go into the physical therapist, you've got a bad knee, and it really hurts, you can't walk,
Mhm.
functioning in your life is really difficult.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that avoid going to the doctor
Yes.
or get physical
Yes.
therapy
Mhm.
to work on themselves? Of course, that makes sense. But you get those exercises, you get those techniques, you work like hell to get through all of that pain, all that, strengthening. And there comes a day where you find you're walking or skipping down the sidewalk and you're,
100%.
I never thought I would get here, but it was because I didn't, it's because I faced that pain. It's because I,
Right.
I let myself experience uh, the healing of that. And
Mhm.
I get it. I get no one wants to sign up for that.
Yeah, that's definitely so true. And thank you for sharing that because I think that not many people want to admit that, because a lot of the time is, I would say this, most people, especially in my arena that have been, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? Like have experienced trauma in some way. I'm not saying everybody is like this, but most of the people that I've talked to are empathetic towards others, right? So it's always this not being able to say no, doing things for others before ourselves, not taking care, not that whole oxygen mask thing of let me put my oxygen on first so then I can take care of, each other. And coming from the arena that I was in Christianity, it's always, oh, treat others the way you should want to be treated. But that's actually not the scripture. It's treat others as well as you do yourself. So it's not, take care of others first. It's actually treat others how you would treat yourself, in the same sense of like, it could go back and forth with that. If I was to treat others as well as I loved myself, I mean, that could be a really eye opening experience because it's like, you're not doing that. We often would treat others more or we would experience pain so that someone else wouldn't experience it. When it comes to even a mom, I'm not a mom by nature yet, but I've seen that. I've been even an aunt. And so I can realize like you would want to experience pain for your child, obviously. You would not think twice about that. So there's there comes a time where it's like, okay, when I talked with my therapist, and a lot of people have different views about this, but the reality is that there's a younger part of ourselves that was hurt back then. So when that person is triggered in us, it's a younger version of ourselves. And what I've envisioned in my mind when that happens a lot and is what does that younger version of myself want to be doing right now? Because her trying to protect me in this moment isn't helping me and it's stopping me from being in the present moment. So it could be something I experienced when I was 8 years old. I remember this. I was in a session, and it comes out of nowhere. Sometimes it's just like, okay, this emotion's coming up, and we're gonna have to deal with it now. And it's kind of bracing yourself for that moment. But I remember it coming too, and I was just like, I think I was like 8 when this happened. And it's like, I don't have any recollection of when it happened or, whatever, but I do know that something happened. And I had to like ask myself, what would that 8-year-old want to be doing right now? Because it's like, that's her job is not to take care of 40-year-old Valerie, right? And so I just had to sit in that moment and envision my 8-year-old self, like, baking with my grandma or like cooking with my grandma because that's what she missed out on because at 8 she was experiencing this. And so I think when we can give ourselves that freedom to just then I was like, okay, after my session, I went home. I put on this little old lady Italian grandma that her name's Nonna Pia. She's so cute. She has like these little cooking videos. And I just baked with her. Like it was like this weird therapy for myself. But, it's in those things that some of times it just doesn't make sense. But, like surgery, you have to go through that pain. Surgery is very painful. Um, I know in my own faith and my journey that the Holy Spirit is said to be our comforter. So I always explain like God is the physician, the Holy Spirit is our anesthesia, right? But he's going to take us through this healing journey because he knows that we're going to come out of it better than where we're
Mhm.
at right now.
Yeah,
So,
and that's my favorite. I don't. I made this up, so I can't. Even, I'm quoting myself
okay,
basically.
good, cool.
Favorite quote of myself is instead of trying to move the emotion,
Mhm,
because people come to therapy and they say, I want to feel happier. I don't want to feel this
mhm.
crap. I want to
Right.
feel these good things. Make me stop feeling so sad. Make me stop feeling so angry or
Yeah.
depressed, anxious. Make all of that go
Make
away.
it go away.
Make it go away and let me be happy. Give me the checklist to be there, right?
Mhm.
And so instead of trying to make the emotion move, can you let the emotion move you? Because the emotion is
Ooh, I just got the goosies again. I like that.
yeah, the emotion is asking you to not only witness it, like we said,
Mhm.
but and let's talk about anger for a second.
Yeah.
Um, let's think of an animal in the wild that is known to be angry, for
Mhm.
example. Um, I like to use the example of like a silverback gorilla, like
Okay.
genuinely not want to be locked in a cage with that guy,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Wh Why would evolution or God or whoever make that gorilla have such a capacity for anger? Like, it's
Mhm.
not just a random happening.
Right.
Uh, and the answer that I give is, for protection. I mean,
Mhm.
they're protecting what's precious to them. They're protecting their young, they're
Yeah.
protecting family, their food resources, their
Mhm.
livelihood, their lives, right? So that anger serves a tremendously important function for
Mhm.
that gorilla to survive, to
Mhm.
live the life that it needs to live, and
Yeah.
provide family, okay? So if somebody comes to therapy and says, I'm so I don't want to be angry anymore, like make this anger go
Mhm.
away. My first question is, what is it asking you? It's telling you that it's trying to protect something that's very, very important to you.
Mhm.
And if you didn't feel that, like if that silverback didn't feel that anger, what would happen?
I think I just had my first, therapy session with you on the house. Well,
Welcome to the guest house.
I love that because honestly, as you're saying that, that has been one of my because I struggle with symptoms of PTSD. In my business, I never like to, take on a diagnosis and say, this is it for me personally. I know that everybody is walking their own journey and I do not, interfere with any of their medical anything. I just walk alongside of them on their journey. But the reality for me was that I know that there's freedom from this and I don't want to experience it forever. But as I peel back the layers of that, anger has been one of the things that I'm struggling with. And that is not who I am. Like, I know, like, okay, the gorilla might be, he was designed for anger. That has never been in my heart. Like, I don't, it's just not me. Like, it's
Mhm.
so when I'm experiencing this feeling, I start getting shameful, right, for
Right.
experiencing this anger. And
Mhm.
so, just listening to what you said, and it's all tied for me in the religious Christianity aspect of it, because it's always like you have to be this good Christian, right? But the
Mhm.
reality is that Jesus got angry. Like he was
Right.
very passionate about how the religious Pharisees were selling things in the temple and misrepresenting God. So he went into the temple and flipped tables. So like that was what I just recently like was really mulling over the last couple weeks is like, no, this is wrong, and it allowed me that permission to
Okay.
feel angry, right? It allowed me
Mhm.
to the permission to be like, okay, this isn't who you are. It's what you're experiencing right now. And the reality is that it was pushed so far down that now it's coming out and you're like, oh my gosh, like, but you
Totally.
didn't allow yourself to feel that before.
Yeah.
And so I do think like your quote is so awesome. My therapist always says, and I use it as well, she says that emotion is energy in motion. So I like what you said, like you can move it out and sure, like, okay, get it away from me. But the reality is when you identify, like, hey, it's okay to feel this, and like to allow ourselves to feel this without it causing a whole plethora of other issues, I think that is just so important.
Yeah, and I don't get me started on women, because if we're gonna
Mhm.
talk, if you got, working with women, I work with women,
Yes.
like, think about the messaging that we get about a woman feeling angry. First of all,
Mhm.
we don't have a lot of examples of it, and
Right.
second of all, when we do have those examples, there's a lot of negative connotations
Mhm.
to that woman for expressing that anger,
Right.
and, um, for women, I think the anger that we allow ourselves to feel is inward towards ourselves.
Mhm.
So if somebody, God, how many examples do I have of this? If somebody cuts me off in line at the grocery store, let's say,
Mhm.
I might feel a moment of anger towards this person. Can't feel that. Shut it down. What did I do wrong? How did,
Yeah.
am I the wrong version of a person for this person to cut me off? Like,
Right.
maybe I should say sorry for being in their way, right?
It's
Like,
so true. Yes.
and so our anger gets turned directly inwards, and it turns into self-loathing, it turns into
Mhm.
shame, that it turns into, um, a whole bunch of disorders, in my
Mhm.
opinion, because we do exactly what you said. I feel angry and then I feel shame about it. So
Mhm.
I push it down into myself, and that can manifest in a whole bunch of health issues as well.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. That's what I deal with. Yeah, exactly.
so I offer that to say, not only if we let ourselves experience that anger, but what is it asking us? Like, what is it trying to protect within us? This
Mhm.
person cutting me off in the grocery store, it is protecting a whole lot of things for me. It is protecting my boundaries of self, my physical boundaries. It's protecting my emotional boundaries. Maybe I had to get somewhere and I had to get out of this grocery store. Maybe it's my time boundaries she just
Mhm.
interrupted.
Sure.
And those are all valid just because I have them. I don't need to have
Right.
an excuse to have a boundary. I just have
Mhm.
it. And we, again, as women, I mean, don't get me started. That could be a whole
Yeah,
other.
because no just isn't no with us. And I
Absolutely.
think that, we feel this need as I get older, I will say, like, I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, I want to be in bed at 8:30. No, I'm not going. Like, that's where I'm at now. But even just when you're talking about the grocery store, I was almost getting like a little triggered just thinking about that because I know exactly how that feels. But I'm 100% Italian. I have a little bit of other stuff in there, but I never, subscribe to it.
We
And
are the.
having Sicilian mom in my family, it's like, and my little grandma, she was about 4'11", 4'10", this little Sicilian. And she was the sweetest, loving, kindest person. But she had this little, raspy voice and everything. And when she got pissed, she did. She would yell, but like we would kind of like laugh a little bit because it wasn't like, whatever. But the reality for me is that it was always met with like, even with my trauma, like I was mad at myself. Like, how could I let myself be treated this way? How could I let myself get into a situation? And, it's so crazy that you say that even with the grocery store because I went the holistic route when I was working with the PTSD stuff and where I wouldn't even walk into the grocery store because I would be there, I would feel these emotions arise in me, or I would feel a man like in line next to me, and I would drop all my stuff and just go home. Like, it was to that point. It's so important to allow yourself to feel that, and then like you said, let it move you versus moving it out before it does what it was meant to do. So
Yeah, yes. You're so wise.
yes, all good things. That is so great. I love it. So we only got about 10 minutes left, but I know it goes fast. When it comes to your business, and we already talked about like kind of what sets you apart in that way. I know that you mentioned to me before you see people with, several different things, but it was a passion of yours to help people that are struggling with relationship issues, marriage, things like that, have experienced trauma, specifically, women as well. But when you're wanting to, kind of give that idea of what a session looks like with you, can you just give us what that entails? If I do, even a 15-minute consultation, but what would an individual session look like? And, is it like this, like a Zoom kind of thing where we're able to just work like this? Or, how far out do you schedule? Tell me, is it packages? How does that work?
Well, not yet, not the
Okay.
packages. But this coincides with your question I realized I never answered in the beginning, which was,
Okay.
the idea of meeting virtually from the
Yeah.
comfort of your own home and the benefit of that. So I am currently only virtual. It fits my lifestyle really well. I think it
Mhm.
fits the lifestyle of the clients that find me and really
Sure.
enjoy meeting from their home. Um, I the structure is it can vary. And again, I'll use the analogy of like physical therapy, depending on the amount of pain that you're in when you come in, depending on the length of time that you've been in pain, the compounding pain, let's say, this could be complex PTSD, is dependent on potentially how long we would see each other and
Mhm.
or other people we might rope in and or other referrals we might make to build a community of people that can help you. So most people that come to see me are using insurance or an employee assistance program of some kind, or they're paying out of pocket. And so they're already very determined to um, work hard
Yeah.
and get kind of root of their issues. I think
Hmm.
most people come to therapy and are anyways because they kind of are in a dark night of the soul or like in a
For
place
sure.
where they're just really needing that help. Um, so we can create a treatment plan based on all of those factors. We can it can be as long as it needs to be. It can be as short as it needs to be. I've seen people go from, really, really tough spots to thriving in 4 sessions. And I've seen people go from really, really tough spots to tougher spots to even tougher spots and then kind of reach a point of thriving. And then
Hmm.
even then they'll graduate and then they'll come back, like a year later. It's just having that strong relationship. So
Yeah.
relationship is number one.
Yeah. And that's important.
All of the studies show that your relationship with your therapist, the quality of that relationship, regardless of any theoretical orientation they have, is going to be the deciding factor on whether you're going to get better or not.
Right.
Like, I could just, it doesn't, that comes secondary. So the relationship, hopefully you can get a sense from me that I just meet you where you're at. I've got this, like, let's sit down, get down in the mud and like talk about the hard stuff and
Hmm.
figure out maybe I might know some things that could help us get out of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
dark place. So that could come in the form of I'm deeply passionate about mindfulness. I have a lot of background and understanding on cognitive behavioral therapy, another kind of combination called the Unified Protocol, which kind of takes a look at the majority of the most common presenting mental health issues and sort of unifies a treatment and sort of removes all the labels of them. So it's not like
Mhm.
I'm going to treat your depression and then I'm going to treat your anxiety. It's like I'm going to treat the underlying symptoms that are equal in all of those diagnoses. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. And how important do you think, because I'm in the holistic health world, and it really wasn't until, I had a bunch of physical ailments and different things that I was struggling with, autoimmune stuff. It wasn't until I dealt with the emotional part of my, journey that I was able to see, improvement all around. So, we talk a lot in the school that I teach at about the mind and body, connection. So would you say that you've seen even people thriving in, their physical health as well when they deal with the emotional
I
side of
don't
it?
I don't see a disconnect between mind and body.
Yeah.
I see it as one complete unit. And
Yeah.
we talked about this, but I see
Hmm.
not only that, but that you and I are you and I in the
Yes.
world is one complete unit.
Yes. I love
So
that.
so not only, I mean, inverse is true. The stronger
Hmm.
your physical health, the stronger your emotional mental
Right.
health. The stronger your mental health, the stronger your potential physical health. Those
Sure.
symptoms can be decreased. The less pollution we have in this world, the better we'll all feel,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, right? So it's like there's not one lever that's going to determine them all.
Right.
Like you said, it's completely holistic. You start to work on eating healthier,
Hmm.
um, more building stronger relationships with your loved ones, getting out into the community, all of that combined, you
Hmm.
are, when you treat one, you start to treat the whole.
Yeah,
That's
right.
my,
But it's got to start small, right? It's got to start like
gotta
you
start
said, there
small.
isn't a quick fix, and so I think that is really, really cool to start small with you. One more thing I want to just say, because, going fully virtual, it can get a little, I guess murky in the sense of like hard to understand and confusing because I know you're licensed in Minnesota, right? Wisconsin and Washington. So, being virtual, I always thought for me it was the practitioner has to be licensed where they're at. So, does it
Mhm.
matter where the client is at?
Yes, actually.
Okay,
And this is my personal rule. I know there's like little loopholes and all of that in
sure.
certain states and certain, but like I've just gone across the board. Like my personal rule is I won't see a client unless they're physically located in the
In
state
any of those
that
three.
I am
Okay.
licensed. I can be in wherever I want to be. The
Okay.
client has to be in that
Yes.
state. So
Okay.
I just like to say if I see palm trees like in the background, then I know you're lying to me. You're not where
Although
you're
there
supposed
are
to
those
be.
little screensavers in
That's
the back
true.
too, so. Well, that's so awesome. Well, I just want to thank you again for meeting today. I know that we said it was going to go by fast, and if we ever need to connect again, I'm more than happy to do so because I just think what you are bringing to the table is so important. And like I said, I just see us in you, you and I collaborating in some way. I know that with Beauty Through Breakthrough, I'm looking to do a 8-week program that's really going to just kind of get you jump started to do a full body detox. And we may have you come on that call because we do calls weekly with that. And so I'm really looking forward to see what the potential for that is. But I just, if there's any last statements that you want to just leave people that, how to get a hold of you, if they
Yeah.
can call you or if they should, go to your website and all that.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll have any links in like
Yeah,
any
I
notes
can put some
for
links.
tonight. I'm happy to send you all those. They're welcome to email me at info@guest-house-counseling.net. And I do have my phone number listed on the website. You have a clickable link that you can sign up for one of those 15-minute consultations if you'd like to.
Okay.
It's totally free. And I think, it's hard for me to condense down one statement
I
that I want to
know
leave
it's so
everyone
hard.
with. But I guess I'll just come from myself then. Like, I'm just incredibly grateful for all the parts of this universe that had to create this moment for us, all of the
Yeah.
moving parts, all the everything that had to come together for you and I to have this conversation. And I'm just really grateful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here. And I know that it was carved and divinely, orchestrated because there would have been no other reason for me to be there had it not, all the spinning parts been there and been led to meet you. So I'm very grateful for that. And hopefully we'll have you back on, soon in the future because I think this topic is so like in depth that we could talk for hours. So,
Oh,
but yeah. Yes, and I
yeah.
will have all your links in there, and I look forward to what the future holds for us.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, you're so welcome. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.